Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 9 of In Conversation With, and this is take 2. This morning we had some sound and reception issues, and Palesa and I agreed that we will go back on air at this time. I felt that this was too important an issue just to leave it hanging there in the middle of what we said. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Suzanne Daniels, and I'm the host of In Conversation With, where we talk to ordinary women doing extraordinary things. Today, I will be talking to Palesa Kgarimetsa about losing a child at the tender age of 5 months and how she has managed to work through it and still be mom to two bubbly, bouncing boys. Those of you who watched the previous morning's episode would have heard the young men around in the background. So, Palesa, thank you for agreeing to come back on. I'm very happy that you did so. And as most of us know, and I think again, I'm going to quote, the death and the loss of a child is often called the ultimate tragedy. And myself as a mom, I really can't comprehend. I really can't comprehend how I would react in such a situation. I think it's only once you're in that situation would you really feel the pain and the empathy. So I am very appreciative that you are you are willing to share your experiences with us. So tell us a little bit about baby Mohau and how things unfolded.
Okay, so I found out that I was pregnant at 6 months, right? I had a bit of a pain on my left side, and I went to my doctor. As soon as I walked in and I started explaining the pain, she just said to me that you're pregnant, and she did a checkup, and she's like, "You're actually about 6 months pregnant." And I cried so much because it was such a shock. As soon as I went to my gynae, he confirmed that it's a baby girl. I gave birth January 25th, so I had 3 months to prepare. January 25th, I gave birth, and then July 2017, I got a call from her daycare center that she had stopped breathing and she passed on.
So that's the short story. So let's go back to how how did it come about that she she passed away at the daycare center or in hospital?
So what happened that day is we dropped her and her younger brother off. I drove the dad to work. On my way back, while I was going to work, the dad called to say that he got a call from the daycare center to say that she had stopped breathing. My first thought was, no, I'm just gonna find her in ICU, Let me go drop off the other brother at his school. And we all met at the hospital. And then when we got to the hospital, we found the lady there, and she was traumatized and frantic. We waited a bit for the doctors. As soon as we went into the room with the doctors, they did the formalities of explaining that she came in and they tried resuscitating. They tried their best, but unfortunately, she had passed on.
Oh my. And how did you feel at that moment? I mean, it must have been quite surreal. You dropped your baby off in the morning and now to be told she has passed on.
Yeah, I couldn't comprehend it, because, like I said, my first thought when I got the phone call was, ah, it's just a small thing. I'm gonna find an ICU. We'll be there for a few days, then we'll go home. So even after I heard the news, I didn't react because I was so shocked.
And how did you how were you able to communicate that to your little boys? I mean, they must have been quite young at the time as well.
Yeah, they were very young. We painted a picture at that time to say that she had passed on and she's in heaven and she's not coming back.
Oh, just to go back to the hospital scene. Earlier this morning, you said it felt like a scene from Grey's Anatomy and those doctors' scenes. Um, in terms of, just getting to the realistic. Were the doctors empathetic? Did they provide any sort of diagnosis? How did they make you feel at that point?
So at that point, we were in the waiting area. Okay, and then a nurse came through to ask for the daycare teacher as well as the parents. And then we went in, we found the doctor already waiting, and like I don't even think at that time I could even understand what the doctor was saying. And I can't really remember the emotions of the doctor, but the doctor did what they had to do at that time to explain what is going on. We've tried what you had to do. Like she spoke for about probably 2-3 minutes, all this medical terminology. She was going through all the medical terminology and all of that. And I literally only just heard the last sentence where she said that unfortunately she didn't make it.
And I know that your husband present with you at the time? How did
Yes, he
he
was.
take the news?
He immediately reacted because he says that as soon as he got the phone call to say that the child is not breathing, he imagined that as an adult, he can't even hold his breath for a few minutes. So for a 5-month-old baby to stop breathing, so immediately as soon as he heard the phone call and on the way to the hospital already, he had already dealt with it, if I can put it like that.
And also just give the viewers and listeners some insight into, from that moment of sort of hearing the news that baby Mohau is no longer with you. What were the feelings that you kind of had to deal with? I can only imagine it went from anger to frustration to all sorts of emotions, especially in a situation where you really didn't have any control over what had happened.
Yeah, so my initial emotion was shock. And then I went from shock to, to sadness. And then there's some guilt as well, because as a mother, you feel like if my child was sick, how did I not know? Could I have maybe taken her to doctors? And you think that, and then at the same time, you come back and you think, I did the best that I could. I stuck to the immunization schedule and I did everything, then the anger of, I mean, she was only 5 months old. She hasn't even lived her life and I didn't get to experience her. And then the trauma as well.
And how
So
did
those
you
are the
do?
kind of emotions that I felt at the time.
Yeah, did you have any support? How, I mean, you come across as very, very strong, and very, very calm. So was was that in was that how you dealt with it? How did it feel at the time? I know I'm asking you to go back about, I think it's 3 years now. How did you feel at that particular point in time?
So at that time, I did have support because my partner was there, and then our parents were also there, a few friends of mine as well. I was so frantic at that time. I was just WhatsApping everybody to tell them what had gone wrong. And a few friends of mine came through to the hospital. They were there with us, sitting there waiting for us. And yeah, and my friends did come to the funeral. My family members were also at the funeral as well. So we did have a good support system.
And then now after the funeral, I'm sort of trying to take it step by step. As I told you, I find this very hard to sort of understand as a fellow mom, um, because I don't think that you would ever recover from such a loss. Um, were there those platitudes about, you have other children? How did that make you feel? You know,
Yeah,
the
so I
loss.
actually did find comfort in the fact that I do have other children because I was imagining that things could have been worse. What if she was my first child? What if she was my only child? So I did find comfort in the fact that I did have other children. So my children were sort of my crutch at that time and they helped me get through it.
And just in terms of the kind of, there's the seven stages of grief, and eventually one does come to this acceptance period. I think all of us have in our lives have experienced loss. But how does it work when you sort of split between um, and this is just my interpretation. I think you split between being wife, partner, being mom, and having to deal with the loss of a child. And I mean, the 1 year, I know that Mahal was a surprise baby in the first place. So were there any other, any additional issues that you had to deal with in that period of time?
So the most traumatic thing for me, immediately after she had passed on, I had to actually go into a pharmacy to get medication to stop the breast milk. So that was very painful for me. That's when it really kicked in to say this is what's happening. And I remember now the funeral has passed and life is going on. And then when I got my first menstrual cycle after that, that was also very deep. But otherwise, my partner was very supportive, and he still is. And I was just busy being a mom to the other boys, because at the end of the day, even though Moha was not there anymore, but I still had a responsibility to be a mother to the boys. So that
How,
also kept me
yeah,
busy and going.
how did you explain Mahal's passing to the little ones? I'm sure they were quite small at the time.
Yeah, so the older one was 4 at the time, and the younger brother was 2. So with the 2-year-old, I don't think it really hit him. But with the 4-year-old, he's very talkative and inquisitive. And I remember immediately after the funeral, we were sitting, and he was actually replaying the day of the funeral, saying this is what went on, and you were crying and all of that. And he would ask questions, whatever questions that he has to ask, and we just answer them. So at least he made it easy for us because he kept an open line of communication about it.
What kind of memories do you have of Mahal now that um, you look back? What were the kinds of memories that you treasure?
So she never cried, eh?
Oh wow!
That's one thing. Like, she literally she literally never cried, and she was beautiful, like physically when you look at her. Like when I think about it now, I'm like, no, she was an angel. Physically she was beautiful, and she had a head full of hair, and she never cried, and she was just always smiling. Those are the memories that I have.
And what kind of advice would you give moms in similar situations now looking back?
So I would say that the support system that you do have, lean on them, because as moms, we always feel like, no, I have this, I don't need anybody, these are my kids. But if you have a good support system, lean on that, and your feelings are valid. Your feelings are valid. You are the one who went through this, you are the one who felt that pain. So people are going to talk, they're going to have their own ideas of how you should navigate it and deal with it. But it's your path, it's your story, it's your pain. So yeah, your feelings are valid, and deal with it. You're going to have your days where you're going to smile and look back, and then you're going to have days where you don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to go to work, you don't want to be a partner, you don't want to be a mom to the other kids, and it's allowed.
You spoke about people talk. What kinds of things were they saying at the time that you had to deal with?
So I think uh what they weren't saying, it was a very tricky situation for some people. They don't know how to approach you. I think when even with me, if somebody loses somebody close to them, you never really know what to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously you're gonna try and move on with your life the best way you know how. But there's always people who feel like maybe you're rushing, or you shouldn't be doing this, or especially from a cultural point of view, right? people feel like, no, you need to be indoors and grieve, or you can't be with your other kids. They need to be somewhere else so you can go through this. So just all of those things. People just want to dictate how you need to deal with it.
And how I remember from this morning you said that you did take time off work. How long did it take, did your work allow you to be off?
I was off work for a month. Both of us, me and Dad, were off work for a month.
Okay, so you didn't, I think, sort of family responsibility leave is like 3 days or 5 days, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so it's annual leave, it's family responsibility, and sick leave all in one.
Oh, and so they at least allowed you. Did they provide any sort of support to you in terms of counseling and those kinds of, or grief
Oh,
support?
yes, they actually did. Hey, they
Mm.
did. We did go for face-to-face counseling. I think it was before we buried her, so we only went to one session,
And how
and
did
at that
that?
time we
How
felt like,
not necessary?
oh, no, I didn't. That time, yeah, it didn't make an impact. That one session really didn't make an impact.
And
So
would you
I've
recommend it
never
to?
been again after that.
Oh, why did you not go back? Is there any particular reason?
Maybe because I'm dealing with it, right now, 3 years later. I think that I've dealt with it. But at that time, I mean, you're sitting in front of somebody, they're trying their best, from their professional point of view to comfort you, but you're just not seeing any comfort. So honestly, that session at that time, it didn't make an impact.
Oh, and I know that when we first met, you said that you are keen to share your story with other moms. What is it that you would like to? What kind of message do you want to give other moms and other women who lose children, in particularly unexpected or tragic circumstances?
Well, there's not really anything you can say to a grieving mother, honestly. But the reason why I wanted to share my story is that through my journey, I've met other mothers who have also gone through what I've gone through. And it's very, like I said, people don't know what to say to you, and it's a bit of a touchy subject. So I just wanted to impact other women, especially that have been through what I've been through, to say that you're not the only one who feels the pain. There is somebody, I'm feeling the pain. There are a whole lot of other women as well that are impacted. So yes, we'll carry the pain forever, but there are people that you can reach out to.
So I take it that every day, is one day better than the other still now, or is it sort of, it's become so part of you that you can move on? It's a very difficult thing to ask because I know that your children are always part of you. So I'm kind of like thinking, I can't say as you become a distant memory. It's a difficult concept to grasp as a mom myself. You know, how
Yeah,
is
so I've just told
how things
myself,
these days?
yeah. So she'll always be part of me as a mother. She'll always be part of our family. The boys know that they had a little sister. They ask about her sometimes. They want to know, is she playing? Is she eating porridge? So they help as well. And from my side as well, days are not the same. Oh, my lights just went off. Days are not the same. I have my days where I feel like I've dealt with it and it's fine. And if not me, then who is supposed to face this? Then you get death anniversaries where you feel a bit sad. Then you get
Mhm.
birthdays and you count every year on the birthday. You count. She'd have been this old, and these are the milestones. She would be walking. She'd be able to talk. So, like I did say, it's a pain that you carry forever.
Yeah. And any advice to ladies going through it at the moment? How would you suggest they look after themselves, look after their families, and how generally would you reach out to them?
So the most important thing, if you're going through this, like I did say, this is your pain and your loss. Your feelings are valid. Just allow yourself to feel it, and allow yourself to be. If you don't want to get out of bed, you don't want to get out of bed. If you don't want to go into work, you don't want to go into work, and it's fun and it's allowed. And I know it's a cliche, but time does heal. Because when I was going through it at that time, I never thought that I'd be counting 3 years later. It was such a trauma for me that I never imagined that one day I'd be able to talk about it and not tear up or not feel any emotions. So time does really heal.
How did you do that? I think that's quite important. I think for to show that mental strength and just emotional balance. How did you get back to being the Palesa that you are now? Like I said, you come across so calm and in control, and you're very, very strong. From my own personal experiences, I know that strong women don't always want to show their weaker side. So, how did you rebuild being mom and being a wife and just being Palesa? I think more importantly, just being Palesa again.
Yeah, so I believe that when life happens, when something bad happens, right? Um, you need to decide to look at it positively. Like I said, I considered that the situation could have been worse. She could have been my child or my only child, and I felt blessed that I actually still have other children. So my motherhood journey is not over. It actually continues through these other two children that I need to take care of. And the fact, honestly, that I shared that pain with somebody else, that at least the dad is also, well, unfortunately for him, though, he was also feeling the pain. But for me, it gave me comfort, and I had a good support system through family, and I had friends, the fact that they were there at the funeral, even afterwards, they were picking up on me. I had a lot of support from my colleagues at the time as well. So I accepted that support. And I told myself that this too shall pass.
Mm. So I think what I'm hearing is accept the support. Don't shy away from showing your emotions.
Now, basically,
No,
don't be a victim. You're not a victim.
yeah,
You are not
yeah.
a victim at all.
And going forward, would you consider having another baby? How has that impacted on your view of being, a mom? I know with two boys, you might not want another baby because they keep you so
Yeah.
busy. But just in terms of
Yeah, the
of course,
boys, because the older one is 7 now and the brother is 5. So they keep me so busy that I feel like let them grow up. But I do have that gap. The only reason I'd ever want to have another child is to fill that void. So I do think about her, and like I said, I do count that she would have been this age and this is what she would have been doing, and probably this is how her voice would have sounded. That's the only reason I'd want to have another child, just to fill the void. But otherwise, the boys keep me busy now, and I want to start exploring other areas of my life now.
it's been 3 years onwards. Is there any do you take part in any grief support, or have you put that behind you now?
No, we just navigated ourselves,
Okay.
with the dad and the kids.
I
There's
think
no
just
other.
yeah, just the one question, and I think we've kind of um, not sort of dealt with it very detailed, but the kind of support that you got from your family and more particularly your partner. That's quite commendable in a situation where everybody would have had to be dealing with their own grief. How did that sense of togetherness did the death actually bring you together or closer, or was it just that's how you are as a family?
It probably did. It probably did if I think back, because my family is all the way in Rustenburg and I'm the side in Joburg, and we hardly get to see each other, because there's work and all of that. But the fact that when something like that happens and people avail themselves, you know, it does really, you do feel like, okay, I belong, I am part of something. And even with friends, because the funeral was during the week, so for people to explain to their managers and all of that, to say, listen, I need the day off, this is what needs to happen, it made me feel so loved, so I
So
felt the love, I felt the support. And when people are there to carry the pain with you, it lightens the burden in a way.
And yeah, I actually feel so motivated that you have the strength to carry on and you have the strength to actually be mom to two wonderful little boys. The little that I see of them, I can just imagine how they keep you busy. So, what next for you, Palesa? What you said that you want to explore being Palesa as well. What would be your next kinds of steps that you would take?
So one thing, after losing my daughter, like I said, it's a lifetime pain. Then I had time through that grieving process. I had time to sit down with Palesa and figure out who I am, and what I want. And I acknowledge that it's something that I need to heal from. So I'm trying to look at different ways of healing. And as you heal, you discover that everything happens for a reason, and there's a bigger picture, and there's a purpose to life. So I'm trying to figure out, what's my purpose, and I really want to follow that purpose.
No, that's awesome. I'm so glad. I'm just going to look at some of the comments before we close up. There's a comment from Macy Sandani who says, "I'm learning a lot from the session. You're such a strong person, Palesa. Salute." I share that view, Palesa. You are indeed exceptionally strong. And thank you for letting us into your world. If you want to share your purpose, you must definitely come and join me in my Facebook group called Self Empowerment with Suzanne. I'm sure the women in there can learn a lot from you. We support each other. It's a supportive community for women, and we support each other in both business and in life's challenges and creating confident communities. I think your story is one of those stories where people still need to hear that there is life after devastating circumstances. Are there any last words that you want to say to the audience before we sign off?
No, I'd just like to thank everybody for making time to hear my story. I've been eager to tell my story, as a way of finding my own healing and also impacting other women as well. So just, yeah, thank you for this opportunity, and I hope I made a difference in people's lives this evening.
No, well, thank you very much for coming online with me again after our interruptions this morning. But thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for giving us the privilege and giving me the privilege of hosting you. And I hope that we can do some more things together in the future. So, any other questions? If people want to get hold of you, how do they get hold of you? Would you allow that?
So I'm available on my Facebook profile. You can send me a friend request or inbox, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, so thank you, ladies, for those who joined us, and thank you, Palesa, for joining me. And we will see you on the next episode next week, Tuesday. Usually, the show is at Tuesday mornings at 9. Due to technical difficulties, we decided to do a rerun this evening. So thank you for all of you who joined us, and I hope to see you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.